Hello, welcome to this video. We're going to be talking about the new Long Island Railroad schedules that just came out, and they've actually been released. They've actually been put on the website already that you can see here. We have service changes starting March 4th, 2024. These changes support track work throughout the system. However, a lot of service is actually being cut, and it's actually kind of surprising where it's being cut. It's actually being cut on the Babylon branch. So let's read what they have to say here. It says, new timetables start on all LIRR branches on Monday, March 4th, 2024. These changes support track work across the system, including major work near the East River tunnels to prepare for their reconstruction. As you know, they have to be reconstructed after Hurricane Sandy caused all that flooding, and we waited until Grand Central opened. Now Grand Central is open, yet they're still canceling trains. So it says some lightly used trains will no longer run and are repurposed to provide more evening service from Penn Station. Many trains, including during rush hours, will depart Penn Station up to 5 minutes earlier or later. Trains are referenced below by their current departure times. Stops at Woodside, Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, and St. Albans have also changed. Major weekday changes are outlined below. There are minor changes to weekend service. If your train no longer runs, please use Train Time or our schedule tool to find an alternative. Even if your train is not listed below, we recommend double-checking your trip, as there have been many minor time changes. So, the 12:37 p.m. train from Penn Station to Babylon will instead start in Jamaica. The 5:28 train from Penn Station to Babylon will leave from Grand Central. The 6:12 train from Atlantic Terminal to Freeport will no longer run. Well, they've cut service from Atlantic Terminal. It's so bad as it is, but they continue to not, cut service from there. The 6:47 p.m. train from Grand Central to Wantagh will now leave from Atlantic Terminal. Oh, I see what they're doing. So they're actually taking the 6:12, and they actually have another train now, and from Grand Central will now leave from Atlantic Terminal. So actually, the people who are using Atlantic Terminal will get another train in the rush hour going back. The 7:32 train from Penn Station to Wantagh will no longer run. A new train will leave Penn Station at 10:14, stopping at Jamaica, Rockville Center, and all stops to Babylon. And there are many changes to the weekday midday schedules as track work has finished. Direct service to Grand Central will resume from stations east of Massapequa. Weekend service at Bellmore, Massapequa, and Amityville will be reduced to 2 trains per hour. So this is a big deal. The semi-expresses are going to now be revert back to their old. They used to only stop, I think, at Freeport. Well, now they're only going to stop at Freeport again. I think it's stupid because the running times haven't changed at all on them. So they're just cutting service at 3 train stations on the Babylon branch, and I don't think that's a good idea. The railroad exists to serve. As it is, there are too many express trains, and they just want to, keep having more. It's the same kind of thing that they did with Mineola and not having the Ronkonkoma train, the one from Grand Central stop here. So it's the same. It's the same thing. So this is a cut in service. Far Rockaway and Long Beach branches. A new train will depart Island Park at 7:48 train and make all stops to Atlantic Terminal. For some reason, it doesn't come from Long Beach. The 7:48 train from Far Rockaway to Penn Station will no longer stop at Locust Manor, Laurelton, or Rosedale. So they're taking stops off to Penn Station at those 3 stations. The 4:57 p.m. train from Penn Station to Long Beach will leave 8 minutes earlier and add stops at Locust Manor, Laurelton, and Rosedale. So they're adding stops in the evening to those stops, and Long Beach. I don't think those stops should be on Long Beach trains. I think they should be on Far Rockaway trains. The 4:46 p.m. train from Atlantic Terminal to Far Rockaway will no longer stop at Locust Manor, Laurelton, and Rosedale. So I see. So they kind of swapped the stops. That's ridiculous. They should not be doing that. But I guess maybe they feel that people are using those stops from Penn Station. The 5:20 p.m. train from Far Rockaway will run to Atlantic Terminal. Reverse peak to Atlantic Terminal they're going to have. And the 5:34 p.m. train from Penn Station to Far Rockaway will leave from Grand Central and add stops at Locust Manor, Laurelton, and Rosedale. The 5:37 p.m. train from Penn Station to Long Beach will no longer stop at Locust Manor, Laurelton, or Rosedale. So they're kind of just swapping stops between the Far Rockaway and Long Beach branch. On the Ronkonkoma branch, the 748 train from Ronkonkoma to Penn Station will add stops at Deer Park and Wyandanch. 728. I might have said 748. I don't know. The 421 train from Penn Station to Farmingdale will no longer run. So they're getting rid of service on the Ronkonkoma line. Instead, the 4:10 p.m. train from Penn Station will now add stops at New Hyde Park, Maryland Avenue, Mineola, Carl Place, and Westbury. Instead, the 4:34 p.m. train from Penn Station will add stops at Bethpage, Farmingdale, Wyandanch, and Deer Park. It's going to cause overcrowding. Why can't you just reroute that train to Grand Central? Why are you canceling it? They claim it's lightly used. That's what they claim anyway. Another train being cut from the schedule is the 457 train from Grand Central to Central Islip. The 454 train from Grand Central to Ronkonkoma will make combined stops at both trains. The 714 train from Penn Station to Ronkonkoma will no longer run. So they're getting rid of the 714 train. A new train will leave Penn Station at 10:58 p.m., stopping at Jamaica, Mineola, Hicksville, and all stops to Ronkonkoma except Pine Lawn. And buses will replace trains between Ronkonkoma and Greenport from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on weekdays through mid-May. On the West Hempstead branch, the 5:36 p.m. train from Grand Central to West Hampton will instead leave from Atlantic Terminal. Midday and evening West Hempstead branch trains will run to and from Penn Station instead of Atlantic Terminal. So the West Hempstead branch is getting direct service to Penn Station instead of Atlantic Terminal. So they're taking service away from Atlantic Terminal. Starting at 9 p.m. westbound and 10 p.m. eastbound, service between Jamaica and Brooklyn will be reduced to 2 trains per hour. Additional trains will be provided at after select events at the Barclays Center. So, they keep chipping away at the service improvements they made when they opened Grand Central. They raised fares. They want to charge congestion pricing. You can knock New Jersey Transit for raising their fares, but at least they're not cutting service. The MTA is still cutting service. These are service cuts. That's what they are. Plain and simple. So let's go to, we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's go to the schedules, the new schedules that we have here. We'll first start with the Ronkonkoma branch. All right, so they're cutting the 714 train from Penn now, and that might be a problem. All right, so we have instead we have the 729 train. So they have a 729 train that will, I guess there was a 714, but now the problem is you've got over a 30-minute gap in service. But I guess they claim there wasn't ridership on that train. I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it and see if they're lying or not. But it's still a decent amount of service, I guess, here. And then they took that Central Islip train away too, which was a short run, and they kind of now have the 410 making those stops instead. Or was it the Farmingdale train? Let's see. What did they get rid of here? Let's see. Going back here. So the Farmingdale train, 421 from Penn Station to Farmingdale will no longer run. So there's no 421 anymore, and instead 410, which is not even going to serve Farmingdale. And then, I thought they said, wait a minute. 410 will add stops. Oh, it's going to add stops at New Hyde Park, Maryland Avenue, Mineola, Carl Place, and Westbury, but not Farmingdale. That train's going to be crowded. So, and then they have a 425 here, which will come from Grand Central that will make Farmingdale. But if you're going from Farmingdale to Penn, now you got to get on the 401, so you're not going to have the option of that 410 anymore. And then if you miss that, you'll have to wait for the 434. I mean, it's not terrible. So, but it's going to make a crowding situation. It could make the crowding situation, even worse perhaps than it already is. Let's go to the back to this again. All right, so let's go to the Babylon branch next. All right, so on the Babylon branch, well, first look at the Ronkonkoma branch before I go to the Babylon branch. Just finish things off. The weekend service patterns pretty much the same with it's weekday, but the midday and the weekend pattern service is still the same with you know, those trains skipping Mineola. That's still there, and it kind of sucks to have that still there. They still haven't, like I said, there's no point in what they're doing other than just to be, you know, just because they can, you know. Let's see if anything else has changed at the shoulder hours. Doesn't look like it. No, it doesn't look like it. So let's look at the Babylon branch next. And yeah, let me just go to the Ronkonkoma branch and just show you again the bustitution. I guess they're going to have bustitution on the Greenport line because of a track work project, I'm guessing, that they're doing. So let's see, a lot of bustitution, yeah. So all the Greenport trains during the week are going to be bustituted. And weekends won't be, but during the week they will be bustituted east of Ronkonkoma. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's look at the Babylon branch next. So they got rid of the 732 from Penn Station to Wantagh. So we'll first focus on that one. So 732 from Penn Station to Wantagh is not there anymore. And yeah, so instead you got, so if you want to go to Wantagh now from Penn Station, you have to make, if you miss the 7 o'clock, you're going to have to wait all the way till 7:47. Actually, no, you can take the 7:23 if you're going to Wantagh. But if you're going to any other of those local stops now, they're going to want you to use this train from Grand Central instead. All right, so that's something to keep in mind. Again, a change that they made there that they decided to make. And the new Atlantic train. So there's a new Atlantic train now that they did add, though, which is good. That at least now there's a train that goes as far as Wantagh. I don't know why I can't go all the way to Babylon, but at least they have that. All right. All right. So 528 train from Penn Station from Dart. So we have that. We have these changes, and then many changes to weekday, midday schedules. Track work has finished, and then so we got to look at the midday, weekday schedules here and see. Now track work is finished in this area. So I know they were ending some trains at Massapequa Park. Now those were weekdays here. All right. So yeah, they're weekdays. Actually, it looks like they might have gotten rid of the semis on the weekdays too now. Yeah, so they did that. Yeah, they got some of them don't run anymore. You know, some of them don't. So this is what they're doing. They're getting rid of the semi-expresses. So instead of having a train that makes Freeport and then Amityville, Freeport, Bellmore, Massapequa, and Amityville, and then Babylon, it's only going to stop at Freeport now. This is a change they made. If we go and we look at the current schedule, so we can get just to kind of compare them here. This is a big mistake in my opinion. All right. All right, so let's see. We're kind of looking at the out to Babylon weekdays, middays. So these were the semis. I see. Well, now they had. Actually, I don't know because. Yeah, because what it was is they had you see these trains ending at Massapequa Park. You don't have that anymore. All right. I think these were the semi trains. They were semi, and then they made all the local stops afterwards. So now, because that track work is finished, they're going to be making the express stops again. So yeah, this is what they're doing. So yeah, that is definitely a change that they definitely made. So you definitely are seeing less of the semi expresses that you used to see. They're still out there. 433 is still there out of Jamaica. That one's still there. It's a very, very well patronized train. I'm kind of curious about the weekdays going west now as well. So I use those semi trains. So this is it's. Let's see what we got going west. Okay, so it looks like they keep the ones. They keep the 408 that connects up with the 330 something out of Patchogue. But the others, they are now express trains. only stopping at Freeport. And yeah, I don't think that's such a good idea. I mean, now you're pretty much back to zero service improvements on the Babylon. Maybe a little more of a service improvement, but it's still, I feel that those semi-expresses are important in helping take the load off. Now you have all these local. I mean, what makes the people on the Montauk branch, west of Speonk, so important that they got to have their own special express train that only makes Freeport, Jamaica, and maybe Woodside and Penn Station? I mean, what makes them so special to have that? I don't think that's right. But at least the semi-expresses in the evening are still there, but they're going to chip away at that too. Now, the big thing is on the weekends, obviously, so you're not going to have, so let's say, let's look here. So you're not going to have, see these 307, 408, 508, they are not going to be stopping. They're only going to be stopping in Freeport. But here's the thing. If we go and we look at the schedule here, the old schedule here, which we're going to go look at here, at these semi-express trains, which I think are great. I think they do good. The railroad exists to serve passengers, but again, they just like running express trains. I mean, why? It's another way of cutting service. All right, so here you go. The times are still the same. So take the 508 out of Babylon. The time's still the same. 508 gets to Jamaica, 546 gets to Penn, 606. So if you look at this, you'll see here, the times are still the same. 508, 529, 546, 606. There's no difference in the running time. So what are they doing? They're just passing people up just because they want to. It's public transportation, but the people who run the railroad, including Rob Free, don't seem to get that point that it's public transportation, all right? And yeah, I know it's happening to stations that I would consider, in the enclave. But apparently the way they're looking at it as, well, if Rockville Center isn't getting the semi-expresses, then they shouldn't be stopping anywhere else along the line. Though they do have them stopping at Freeport, I guess, because that's an important bus transfer point. At least they're doing that for now until they yank Freeport off. But what this is going to do is it's going to cause overcrowding on the trains going to Penn Station. That's what it's going to cause. And, it's a real pain in the neck. I think it's completely stupid, in my opinion, And it was nice to take a train from Patchogue and transfer to a semi-express, and I could get to Bellmore relatively quickly. Now I got to wait in Babylon another 10 minutes. I mean, they raise our fares, but they take away our service. They raise our fares, but they take away our service. This is a service cut. That's what it is. You're cutting service. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's what they're doing. So, that's what they're doing here. And, they're cutting service. Even on the Babylon branch, they're cutting people's service. And so we're going to go look at some more of the schedules now. And we'll go to the Port Jefferson branch. And that gets me, because if you take the Port Jefferson branch, you don't get an express train that makes like one stop before Jamaica. No, only the people from Patchogue, only because they're super important for whatever reason. Well, we all know the PCAC chair lives there, Gerard Brinkman, so maybe that has something to do with it. But we're going to rant on them in another video later this weekend. But anyway, I don't think anything's changed here for the Port Jefferson train schedule. We'll take a look. I don't think anything has changed, but there may be some minor timing changes here that might be noted here. I don't see any minor timing changes here. This is the weekday schedule here that we have. But again, the problem, you still have, you're still putting, and that's another lie that they made for the people in Carl Place and Maryland Avenue, still stuck with hourly service. They're seeing no service improvements at all. They're stuck with hourly service, and it's not even from Penn Station. It's from Grand Central. I mean, the service is, in a lot of ways, is getting worse now. It's getting worse, and they're just cutting service. Is it because they don't have enough collectors? They don't want to spend the money on people to collect the tickets? Because I'm noticing a lot of times that they don't come through anymore. I mean, I don't get it. And on the weekends, same deal you're going to have. So on the weekends, if you're in Carl Place, you're going to only get hourly service. Same thing for Maryland Avenue, and it's only going to be to Grand Central, right? Or is it going to be to Penn? Oh, it will be to Penn. Okay. At least on the weekends, you're going to get to Penn, I think. It flip-flops around. I don't know. But the point is, some Port Jefferson trains have the trains that do skip. Some of them don't. But the point is that they don't get their set little special express train. So if Port Jefferson isn't getting it, then I don't think the people from Patchogue should be either. I don't understand what the big deal about was making those 3 additional stops. It's not right at all. Not right at all. It was a service improvement that they made that they're pretty much walking back. Of course, no changes on the diesel branches. We continue to have the kind of ridiculousness that you see here. For instance, coming back from the Hamptons, this Montauk train here at 3:16, last stop after Patchogue, it's express to Jamaica, and then if you're going to Babylon, you've got to wait now for the 5:31 train. Yeah, you got to wait for the 5:31 train, and then you get to Babylon at 6:01. Then you're going to have to wait again for 6:19, another 19 minutes. So it's ridiculous when that other train probably could make the 5:39. They don't care about Inter-Island riders. They don't understand. Rob Free, you don't understand that your job is supposed to serve the passengers, the people who take the train, not to serve a certain group of people. It's public transportation. All right, you're supposed to be stopping at stations that a lot of people use instead of passing them up. All right, that's the bottom line. And you're not, and they're doing it now on the Babylon branch. So they're even pissing off the people on the South Shore because playing favorites with certain people between Babylon and Patchogue. Because they don't want to stop at 3 additional, even though it's not going to save them any time. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. I really don't. But these are cuts. These are cuts. They're cutting service is what they're doing. They're cutting service. And then we get to the Hempstead branch where I think they've been some cuts too as well. Let's see if they've cut service at some of these stations like Queens Village. Yeah, they're back to hourly now. So Queens Village is back to hourly service again. I know for a while they were getting some more trains stopping there, but now I think it's back to hourly service. I think they cut them back. So let's take a look at the current schedule. I might be wrong. Let's see before we go ahead and see. Come on. So let's see what we got here. Let's see. All right, there were a few more trains stopping there. 10:04, 10:23. So now we've got. Yep. They got rid of one of those trains. They got rid of one of those trains on the Hempstead line. So they cut a train on the Hempstead line. 9:40. There was 9:43. And then 10:02. And now they don't even talk about this. The 9:43 has been shifted to 9:58, and there is no more 10:02. So they cut service on the Hempstead line. Unbelievable. So they cut service on the Hempstead line. They don't even list that in their changes. They don't even list that in the changes, do they? No, they don't even list it in their changes. So they've cut service on here, and they're making cuts that they're not even announcing here. This is unbelievable what they're doing. I mean, what do we have to show for it? All this money spent on Grand Central and East Side Access and the third track, what do we have to show for it? Almost nothing. Let's look at the weekends at Queens Village. At least the weekends, hourly as well on the weekends as well. I always thought they got half hour. Let me go to the old schedules here. Because I thought that some mainline trains had to stop there, but I guess not. It was only Floral Park, I guess. It looks like there's some mainline train stop there. Hollis, but not Queens Village. We're looking at. Let me go look at the weekends. We're not looking at the weekend. All right. Let's see. No, I guess not. I guess they always had hourly service. I mean, look, I don't know if Hollis has the ridership to support half-hourly service, but Queens Village does. Why the hell aren't they stopping there? I think we all know why that is. So, honestly, again, very little in the way of service improvements being seen here. Very little in the way of service improvements being seen. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's like they really only want to cater to the commuters and the people going out to the Hamptons and Fire Island and stuff. I mean, people use the railroad because they don't own cars. They don't really care about those people at all. People like me. And we all know it's part of the plan to push us out. The railroad cries broke about all this, and they're making cuts. They're obviously making cuts. I mean, I've been told that the Queens buses in Queens aren't showing up because they're making cuts. And meanwhile, the railroad has money for this crap. LIRR expands gate collection for special events. So this is they're basically doing this because the trains are overcrowded. The conductors can't get through. So what they're doing is when you use the train at Penn Station now, they've got loads of conductors and MTA police there screening people before they get on the train. It's costing a lot of money when you could just add service. But instead, this is turning into a big mess. So this is we're going to talk about Penn Station here. Let's see, they talk about Penn Station. So these problems with fare collection before after events stem from trains being too crowded. But these problems are of the LIRR's own creation by failing to observe its own loading guidelines. The LIRR, they're not running enough trains. They're not running enough capacity. All right? LIRR's expansion of gate collection is a classic case of treating the symptoms and not the root cause of the problem. If LIRR did a better job of operating service before or after events, actually following their loading guidelines, it would be more than enough time for their tickets to be collected on board. Instead, the LIRR is spending more money to add staff and deal with symptoms. So they're actually spending a lot of money on this gate collection, which is ridiculous. So if you see this little graphic here, we may check tickets at the station, which is, again, terrible. And what if you're running a rush to make a train and you don't have time to buy a ticket, or if you have a disability like me, we can buy tickets on the train. They're going to not let us on. I mean, I don't like this at all. I don't like this at all. This is just another boneheaded idea by the MTA here. A boneheaded idea by the MTA. But this is what we get here at the MTA. This is what we have to deal with because of the MTA leadership that we have at the MTA, and they don't care. They're out there to serve Wall Street and the snobs, and they don't really care. They're playing games. They don't even understand what their purpose is at this point, and that purpose is to serve the passengers, to serve the people. They don't get it. They're just trying to look at their own bottom line, and they don't care, And in the last, I just want to go to the leadership. They of course bury the MTA leadership in here. When you're going looking to see who's running the MTA, and you go, all right, transparency. It says board and committee meetings, but they don't really talk about where's the link to the actual people that run the MTA. They hide it in here. They don't want people to see that, I guess. We got to go to about the MTA, and then maybe who we are, and then maybe this will show us who the people are that run it. Nope, they don't even have that here. So they want to hide. They don't really want to serve the people. We go to the board members. Obviously, Gerard Brinkman on there. But what about the people actually running it? Leadership, we got to actually go here. Now we finally found it. See how hard it is to find that information. Jano Lieber, who coming up, we're going to talk about it. He's in there with Riders Alliance. We're going to talk about that in another video. And then we have this guy, Rob Free. He's been a huge failure right now. Very, very big disappointment in this guy. He's not doing anything to stand up for the riders. He's just a yes. He's just going to yes Jano Lieber along and whatever the MTA brass want. And again, Rob Free, your job is to serve the passengers. You're not doing that. What are you trying to do here? We have a climate crisis. We need to encourage more people to use public transportation, and you're cutting service. These are all service cuts. Everything I've talked about in this video, most of it, 80% service cuts. You raised our fares, yet you're cutting service in a very sneaky way. Shame on you, and shame on everybody at the MTA for allowing this to happen. This all goes back to the Hochul, and Cuomo, and they don't care about. They don't support public transportation. It's not like New Jersey. Meanwhile, they have the nerve to actually have to force people to pay this congestion pricing, fee. And they're just making the public transportation worse because they're just trying to squeeze us out. People need to wake up and fight harder. We need to throw all these people at the MTA out. We need the MTA to be run in a completely different manner than it is being run. And I honestly think they should be elected positions by the people, not appointed by the governor. So we actually have a say in what's going on, because right now it doesn't seem like we do. Anyway, thank you for watching, and have a good night.